Test. Is this thing on? Okay, hello. Video diary entry number 1342. It's August 26th, 2020. First day of classes at Utah Valley University. Began as a typical first day at the university. Arrived to find a full house of bright, eager students for my 8 a.m. section of English Lit 3470, Harry Potter and the New Classics. Went through the syllabus, then divided the class into Gryffindor and Slytherin teams for a lively opening discussion. To my dismay, a few students showed up for class in full costume. Love the enthusiasm, but it's just too much. Note to self, implement dress code into future syllabi.
You've got mail. You've got mail. You've got mail.
Anyway, I was on my way to the office mid-morning when I spotted something curious. Had just passed the K. Newell Daly Performing Arts Center and New Skin Stadium, where a crew was hanging the Wolverines' 2019 WAC Football Championship banner. Construction had begun on a new 300,000 square foot classroom building in that vicinity, and a tractor must have unearthed the metallic box. It wasn't heavy and only about the size of my new Apple iMatrix. I picked it up out of the dirt and took it back to my office to investigate. It was labeled UVU 2011, a vision for the future. I concluded it must be a time capsule planted about a decade ago. When I opened the box, the contents were revealed to be a single disc-like object. I summoned a help desk aide on my Apple iHologram device, and he confirmed that it was a DVD. I hadn't seen one in years, but thankfully, the university archive had a workable laptop computer circa 2011 to play it. For posterity, I've included snippets from the video time capsule in this journal entry. The video depicts various people from the 2011 campus talking about the university and their vision for its future. I found that many of their prognostications were right on. For example, they predicted that UVU's pattern of unprecedented growth would lead to at least 46,000 students by 2020. A little low, but just about right. Most of their answers were related to UVU's unique educational mission, a concept that was apparently quite new and novel back then, but has since become common nationally. The interviewees also spoke to the university's core themes: engaged, inclusive, serious, and student success, all of which are still very much at the center of UVU's culture and mission. Some of these concepts have resonated well beyond UVU. In fact, the university's marketing campaign has been lifted by the Federation Starfleet.
Engage.
A few of the predictions were less accurate. For example, perhaps I'll just include a sampling here.
Definitely holographic professors.
I think there's going to be a lot more people, and there's a lot bigger classes.
At the rate that it's growing right now, it will be humongous. It will probably take over the entire state, but hopefully it will be a sound university that can offer as many possibilities and opportunities to students as possible.
Really cool, I guess. I don't know. Really high tech.
I see it becoming like one of the biggest colleges in Utah, as I know that it's starting to become more and more well known, and I just see it becoming bigger and bigger and better.
You think we should have a football team?
Yes, I think it'd be a great idea.
You know what? I would get a football team in this school.
And why is that?
Helps build school spirit.
Should the university have a football team, do you think?
No.
And why would you say that?
Mostly because I don't really like sports fans. I think that they are insane. And on top of that, sometimes I feel like people don't go to university for the quality of the education. They go for the sports team.
How do you see education being delivered in the future?
You know what? Everybody's saying that it's all online. I think part of it will be online, but I think there's a connection that you can make with teachers that can't be covered with just the computer.
Distance education through web-based solutions, but I think that can create a real problem because a lot of the higher education needs to be delivered in a mentor-mentee situation. So you need the personal interaction in person. You need to be able to actually see the person that is supposed to develop your skills.
I think online will be a big thing in the future, maybe even, who knows, being taught by robots, if we get to that point in technology.
It's always good to offer more classes, just like broaden the departments and maybe educate at
have more qualified professors is always a good thing.
I see UVU as being a very dynamic school and also being really quick to change. One of those that can adapt easily and kind of go wherever like the current trends are going.
I would really like to see a parking structure. That would be great.
Parking's kind of tough.
Yeah, sometimes, only during the busy hours.
So, there you have it. The previous generation's eyes set on a not-too-distant future. In the day-to-day hubbub of teaching and scholarly pursuits, it's easy to get a little myopic. This experience has made me step back and realize that UVU's current success is built on the backs of the excellent faculty, staff, administrators, and students who were courageous in carving out an innovative approach to delivering higher education. It's that dedication and commitment that attracted me to UVU, and now I work with some of the best colleagues imaginable. Brian Birch, whose recent paper titled Cyborg Existentialism, Finding the Inner Humanity, has garnered national attention. Steve Wasserbach, whose work on supersymmetry at CERN was instrumental in finding the elusive God particle, and Todd Leonard, whose culinary expertise was recently validated yet again when he won Intergalactic Chef of the Year honors for the Gamma Quadrant. Just to name a few, truly, UVU's focus on student success attracts some of the galaxy's best faculty. As an aside, I was fascinated at so many mentions of parking as a key campus issue a decade ago. Apparently, they didn't realize that those multicolored pipes that run all over campus were actually transport tubes. End of entry, August 26, 2020.
Well, I don't know whether Harry Potter will ever be a classic or whether we'll have a football team or holographic faculty, but it's kind of fun to think about the future of UVU in the year 2020. I want to thank Studios and Engineering for producing that, and a big thanks to Kate McPherson for putting her reputation on the line to be involved in that video. It was fun. Well, good morning and welcome to the 2011-12 academic year and to our faculty convocation. It's a pleasure to be here. It's great to see all of you. Great to have you back. I hope you had an enjoyable summer, a restful summer, perhaps a productive summer, but don't overdo that. And here we are again back to this exciting institution, Utah Valley University. To begin the convocation today, I would like to make a few introductions. Since springtime, we've hired over 70 new faculty. These are tenure track, non-tenure track, including replacements, lecturers, but in the neighborhood of 70 new faculty. That is a wonderful addition to already a great faculty body. And I'd like to have all of you who are new here, teaching for the first time, to stand and be recognized. Would all the new faculty please stand? We welcome you. We're grateful to have you here. I would encourage the faculty, the old-timers, the young-timers to reach out and welcome you and to be a source of support and to mentor you in this coming semester. In addition, at our convocation today, we have the President's Cabinet. I'd like to introduce, of course, President Holland. We'll be hearing from him shortly. Corey Duckworth, who is the Vice President for Student Affairs, and Linda Macon, who is the Chief Planning and Budgeting Officer, and the inimitable Kyle Reyes, the Assistant to the President, and everybody's right-hand person. So we appreciate having you here. Do we have Val Peterson? Val Peterson is our Vice President for Administration, and Mark Archambault, who is our Vice President for Development and Alumni, will be speaking to us later on this morning, and Val Hale, who is the Vice President for University Relations. I would also like to recognize and acknowledge the directors from our Student Affairs Division. I've invited them to attend our convocation today because of our close working relationship with Student Affairs, with our cooperation and all that we do together to make this an enjoyable and enriching educational experience for our students. Last fall, the accreditation team from the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities, as you know, was here. And one of the commendations that they made said, quote, "For remaining student-centered throughout the transition in status and the transformation in size." So despite our growth, despite our transformation and movement to university status, we have still been able to maintain our focus on students, our focus on their experience here and helping them to graduate and to go on to their own personal goals. And so I'd like to have all of the Student Affairs directors, everyone for Student Affairs, please stand, and we would like to recognize you and thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce the deans, particularly for the benefit of our new faculty. I know you're here somewhere, so if you just stand. And we have Newell Daly, who is the Dean of the School of Arts. Newell. All right, is this going to be a fan club activity here, or what's going on? Bryant Farnsworth, who is the Dean of the School of Education. Bryant. Sam Rushforth, who is the Dean of the College of Science and Health. No cheers. You see what I'm driving at? I mean, it's not a good habit to get into. Katie Taylor, who is the Interim Dean of University College and has done a wonderful job this year in working with University College. David Yells, the Dean of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. Over here, David. Norm Wright, the Dean of the Woodbury School of Business. I saw Norm here. And who said the business faculty were conservative and mild-mannered? I don't believe it. Ernie Carey, the Dean of the College of Technology and Computing. I don't think Ernie could be here today. These are our deans. I very much appreciate all the work that they do. I know that you do also. This is our academic team that helps move us forward. I would be remiss if I didn't also introduce my staff in the Office of Academic Affairs. Brian Birch, Brian, who is the Associate Vice President for Engaged Learning, and Kathy Debenham, who is the Associate Vice President for Academic Programs. Drew Huffaker, I see at the back, is my administrative assistant, and Karen Cushing. Is Karen in here? She is the brains behind putting this event together today, and so I want to thank her very much for her work. You may have received an email the past couple of weeks indicating that the name of Dean's Council is being changed to Academic Affairs Council to represent all that attend, this group of academic leaders, and as well as to reflect the sort of broad issues that we work with and deal with in this council. And so we'll be referring to Academic Affairs Council. It's not something new. It's not another group of people. It is the same group that we have had, just a name that I think is more reflective of the makeup, the membership, and what we do. Well, these are a lot of introductions. I was commenting to a few of you that UVU is just one big place. 32,000 students plus. I was looking at the enrollment statistics yesterday, and it seems like we're up about 7.5%, another couple of thousand students. So probably by mid-September, we're going to be pushing 35,000 students at the university. And it certainly is an honor and a privilege to welcome these students back and to feel their energy and enthusiasm as they come here in droves, because they recognize the quality of the institution, the quality of our faculty, the programs we have, the kind of educational experience that they'll gain here at Utah Valley University. And so batten down the hatches here, full speed ahead for another exciting semester. To begin this morning, I would like to turn the time over to our Faculty Senate President, John Balden, for some remarks. John?
I read on the program that I was supposed to shut up and sit down at 9:15. So, that's it. I'd like to welcome you back. Last year we had 527 faculty members. This year we have 542. So we have 15 more approximately than what we had last year. So we have a lot of replacements. We've lost some friends and we've gained a lot of new friends. And so we're excited to have you back here on campus, and we're excited to have everybody here. Over the summer we've continued and progressed greatly in a couple of migrations. One of them is the migration from Blackboard to Canvas. And if you haven't taken some Canvas training, there's training still available. I encourage you to get in there. We will only have Blackboard for one more semester, this semester. And then Blackboard will no longer be supported. So if you have online classes in Blackboard, be sure you get them over to Canvas as quickly as possible. The other one is the migration from GroupWise to Outlook. For those of you who have not been moved, which is most of us as faculty, that will probably happen this semester. And so please be patient. There are some glitches in the program. There are some problems. Drew Huffaker sent me an email last Thursday, and I got it yesterday. So there are some problems along the way, and they're working out the problems. So please be patient with the system as it comes through. We have in the Faculty Senate a number of things that are going on. There are policies that continue to be developed and advanced, and we will be considering those as we come up in the semester that comes. If you'd like to attend the Senate, it's an open meeting. We have in the Senate 50 individuals who represent an average of 10 faculty members each. We made a few changes this year in that the School of Science is growing, and so they gained a senator, and one of the other schools lost a senator. But we still have 50. We will be meeting our first meeting on September 13th. We encourage you to come and to participate. If you don't have your senators elected yet, we encourage you to get that process done so that they can be there to represent you when the Senate starts up in September. We have a number of other things that happened here recently. We just dedicated or opened the new physical facilities building, which is brand new. If you haven't been over on 4th West, I encourage you to go over there and take a look at the building. It's a very beautiful building. In fact, if you want a parking pass, that's where you have to go to get it. So I encourage you to go over there and take a look at that new building. It's very, very nice. The science building is progressing. You'll find that the walkway that goes between the science building and the student center will be open this semester as soon as they get it open. But that'll save us from having to walk around through the student center and across the walkway. A little bit more sheltered as you go through the cold weather in the winter. Unfortunately, we don't have the hallway open yet for there are some problems with insurance and that sort of thing that we can't do that. Faculty Senate is a group of individuals who represents the faculty in issues that have to do with governance, which have to do with setting policies, and which has to do with helping the faculty interface with the administration. As you know, faculty are a very interesting and unique group of individuals. We have a tendency to think that we know everything and that everybody else should listen to our opinions because we are the experts in whatever we deal with. And so it's an opportunity in the Senate to get together and give some input into the administration. We do have a shared governance model in that we do have a very great deal to say in what goes on in the university, and in the Faculty Senate is where that takes place, that we have an opportunity to meet with the president, present in most cases, and we have the opportunity to give our input into the decisions that are made, and very frequently our input as faculty is honored and followed in the things that go on in the university because we are a very important part of the university community. Again, I'd like to welcome you back. You've got lots of things to do and lots of students who are out there trying to get into your classes. the School of Business, I had a class that didn't have enough students, and so they added another class, and before it even got online, it had 3 students in it. So the students are looking for classes to take. I encourage you to be flexible in your classes. If you have spaces in your class, please allow the students to come in, because we've got lots of students who really, really want to be here, and we want to make it a good experience for them. Good luck. Have a good semester, and enjoy the time. We've got a real good program for you today, so hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thanks, John, very much. I might add, with regard to Canvas training, we will be having some Canvas training this afternoon right after lunch, and so please stay around. This is to help you to begin to make the migration and to become familiar with it, and hopefully you can take your knowledge back to your offices and departments, and this transition will be as easy as it can be. I was also thinking that I wanted to make sure that particularly faculty who are going to be applying for tenure this year or have mid-year reviews, the deadline for getting your applications into the RTP committee is September 15th. And you remember last year that date kind of crept up on us. So any of you or others who are planning to apply for tenure or mid-year review, September 15th to your RTP committee is when those are due. Well, I'd like to take a few minutes and introduce our theme today. The future is here. I suppose that sounds a little corny, but I'm serious about that, and want to emphasize the importance of thinking now and planning now for the fun things that may be occurring in the year 2020. The future of Utah Valley University does begin now. It begins today. It begins here in this room. It begins with you, the faculty of this great university, the 60 or 70 new faculty that have been hired. Last year, another 50 or 60, the year before, similar numbers. I suspect that probably, I haven't looked specifically, but probably less than half of our faculty are tenured. Probably half of our faculty have just been here less than 5 or 6 years. And so where we go as an institution and the kind of institution that we can be and that we want to be is in your hands and seated in this room. And I hope that all of you will be here for many years to come, and in 8 or 9 years we'll be talking about the year 2020. We need your energy, we need your enthusiasm, we need your insight. And as I said in my brief message in the program, we need you to participate actively in the conversation as we work together to make UVU an excellent university. Second, I'm beginning my 23rd year here. I was saying that I feel like Rip Van Winkle that woke up 20 years later and sort of said, you know, where has the time gone? When I arrived at this institution in 1989, it was Utah Valley Community College. And in the 22 years I have been here, I can honestly say that this is really a very dynamic, entrepreneurial, energizing institution. It has been enjoyable in every respect. When I arrived, the institution was in the process of moving from the quarter system to the semester system. And so all the faculty were feverishly converting their 10-week curriculum to 15 weeks. And so taking 3 10-week courses and putting them into 2 15-week courses. And I can tell you that is no easy task. I remember very clearly it was about the 12th week into the first semester, and the tongues were hanging out of the faculty. When is this going to be over? But it is now a part of our regime and a part of our program. 4 years later, we were a state college. offering baccalaureate degrees. At that time, we said we have no interest in becoming a university. We were very happy being a 4-year state college and offering terminal baccalaureate degrees. That didn't last very long because we soon found out that our students and the community and the state needed and wanted a public university in central Utah. 3 years ago, we became a university, and now we're offering 3 master's degrees. On Friday night, I met with the second cohort of MBA students. And to have come here in 1989 when we were a community college, and then to stand in front of 40 or 45 graduate MBA students was a thrilling experience. The institution has grown and developed, progressed tremendously over that period of time, and it's exciting to be a part of that growth. And I imagine and feel that the next 10 years, the next 20 years, we will see similar growth and development and excitement as new programs develop and as we grow. And I wish you all the best. However, we really can't wait to 2020 to plan for 2020. The time just moves too quickly. By that year, we should have about 46,000 students, unless Kate McPherson's prognostication is correct, and we may have more than that number. The state has asked UVU to play an active role in achieving a goal of helping 66% of adult Utahns from the age 25 to 64 to obtain a post-secondary degree, a certificate, a 2-year degree, a baccalaureate degree. It's a huge task, and we're going to be at the center of that, and we're going to be involved in it. And it's going to be exciting for us to be able to do that. At the same time, there is growing concerns around the nation about the quality and effectiveness of higher education. During the past 10 years, the National Center for Public Policy and Higher Education has issued a series of national and state reports that evaluate the progress of higher education on 5 dimensions. Preparation, are the students, high school students, better prepared to come here? Participation, access, are they able to come? Is there a place for them to come? Completion rates, affordability, learning. Without going into the details of the reports, the results are somewhat discouraging. We're not across the country making the kind of progress that we need to. In 2005, the National Commission on Accountability in Higher Education published a report titled Accountability for Better Results, a National Imperative for Higher Education. Well, you get the point. We are being asked as educators to take a look at our role, to take a look at our institutions, to take a look at the way that we deliver education, and to develop ways of doing that in a more effective and efficient manner. This past year, a council of 30-plus faculty, staff, administrators, and students from across the university undertook the challenge given by the president to examine our mission and to see to what extent and how we are able to educate a wide variety of students with different preparation, to receive an education in a wide variety of degrees, from 1-year certificates to master's degrees. Out of that initiative has come a report that has been disseminated. Feedback has received. The president is going to talk more about that. But this coming year, we are going to embark on an effort to continue to look at those recommendations, to develop them, and to implement some of them. To move this initiative forward, Academic Affairs, with the help and input of the deans and faculty senate, department chairs, and others, to pursue several projects. First of all, we want to begin developing a proposal to establish a graduate school of studies, a graduate office, or an office of graduate studies. We have had for the past several years a committee that has been helping and supporting and moving us forward with our new graduate degrees. As we look down the road, it's time for us to begin to look at an office of graduate studies that might help us as we move forward. We're going to be working with with University College to help expand and strengthen their role in student retention and student success so that they can help us in academic affairs keep our eye on the ball, which I think is educating our students and providing a successful experience for them. We're going to be hiring a new assistant vice president with current funds, I might add, not with new money, but with current funds that will help us to promote, to coordinate, to focus on our 1- and 2-year degrees, to help us with our career and technical education, our extended studies, our weekend colleges, our concurrent enrollment. We will be spending time working with you, with the Academic Affairs Council, to develop an enhanced program approval and review process, so that as we move forward with new degrees, we evaluate them carefully, we have the documentation, the justification, we know that they fit the mission of UVU, and we know that this is the direction we want to go. And then evaluate the programs we currently have. Strengthen those that need strengthen and support those that need support. John mentioned policies. This is going to be a policy year. I mean, I've got a list of a dozen that seem to be increasing every day of policies, some going back to 1993. Now, 1993 was when we became a state college. And so there was a great effort at that point to review our policies. So we'll be doing that again, but particularly I want to review Policy 632 on assignment and advancement in rank, academic rank, and we want to do that. It's going to take a lot of effort, it's going to take a lot of work, it's going to be enjoyable, it's going to be exciting to develop this new and innovative model of education. And I'm committed to do all that I can to help move this work forward. I look forward to working with you, and I seek your help and support. In considering the challenges that this will occur and the opportunities that present us, I was interested in locating somebody in the world of higher education who might be able to give us some counsel, some advice, to help us as we move in this path. I believe I found that person in that individual in the person of Dr. David Gardner. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Gardner. He's a renowned educator, administrator, and student of higher education. He is President Emeritus of the University of California System. After completing a PhD in higher education at UC Berkeley, he joined the faculty at UC Santa Barbara and was there appointed as their vice chancellor. In 1973, he became the 10th president of the University of Utah. And then in 1983, he became the president of the University of California System. In 1981, the Secretary of Education, Dr. Ted Bell, created the National Commission on Excellence in Education and asked Dr. David Gardner to chair that commission. The commission was asked to prepare a report on the quality of education in America. That report, titled A Nation at Risk, was published in 1983, and it has become a landmark study, still quoted today, still looked at today in terms of where are we at with education in in the country, and what we need to do to move it forward. As an experienced administrator in higher education and a national leader in educational reform, Dr. Gardner brings a unique perspective to bear on UVU's unique educational mission, particularly with his experience and knowledge of Utah and the Utah system of higher education. The president and I invited Dr. Gardner to come and speak. He was willing to do so, except he is out of town today. And so we prevailed upon him to allow us to interview him. and to videotape that interview and to present that to you today. And so, without further ado, here is the interview with Dr. David Gardner.
Welcome. I'm delighted to be here this morning with Ian Wilson, Vice President of Academic Affairs, and David Gardner, former President of University of Utah and the University of California System. And David, this will be shared with our faculty at our faculty convocation, where we will have given a more formal introduction of you and your long list of accomplishments and vast experience in higher education. But it's truly an honor to have you join us today, and we look forward to this conversation with you.
I'm really very happy to be here and appreciate your kind invitation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. President Gardner, let's start with a little bit of history. About 30 years ago, you were part of a landmark educational commission. You chaired that commission. That was you titled a report, "A Nation at Risk, the Imperative for Educational Reform." I remember when that report came out, and I especially remember some of the very strong opening language of that report. Let me just cite that here. The educational foundations of our society are presently being eroded by a rising tide of mediocrity that threatens our very future as a nation and a people. If an unfriendly foreign power had attempted to impose on America the mediocre educational performance that exists today, we might well have viewed it as an act of war. That's some remarkable language. Tell us about that experience, your perspective on what was happening with higher ed at that time, and some of the things that you found in that report.
Well, I'll be happy to do that. That particular language was somewhat tempered from the original language that had been suggested by some members of the commission.
Oh boy.
Well, this was a commission that was appointed, National Commission, appointed by Ted Bell, who was then Secretary of Education. Ted had been Commissioner for Higher Education in the state of Utah for many years, been Superintendent of Schools in more than one district in Utah, was a lifelong educator, and was President Reagan's Secretary of Education. In 1982, he was determined to find ways and means of calling to the attention of the public the then eroding conditions of schooling in the United States. And he thought he could do this best by the appointment of a nonpartisan, not bipartisan, nonpartisan commission of people who were experienced in this arena. So we had the Teacher of the Year was on this commission, one governor was on this commission, a couple of superintendents of state school systems were on this commission, the head of Bell Lab was on this commission. We had a Nobel laureate from Berkeley, a former chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission on this commission, and people of that caliber who were both experienced in and committed to finding ways and means of improving the condition and quality of education in the United States. So we tended to focus on K-12 rather than higher education, although that was brought in. But the focus was on K-12 and mostly the high school, because if the high schools could be improved, that would in turn have a positive influence on the earlier grades and would also be of real benefit to higher education. We looked at the high school dropout rate. And then we looked at the performance of our students in the United States compared with other advanced industrial countries of the world. And the top 10% of our students compared very favorably with the top 10% of students around the world in their respective school systems. But then there was a huge drop-off in terms of our ability to compare and compete with the middle. So we took account of all these and other factors I won't burden you with. And we undertook to recommend this report via the Secretary of Education to President Reagan. His view had been clearly articulated in the campaign when he ran for president, that he thought education was not a direct responsibility of the federal government, but direct responsibility of the states. And so he had kind of a bias on that. But when this report came out, he changed. But the main thing is that the concerns we had nearly 30 years ago are more exacerbated today, more pronounced today, more evident today than they were 30 years ago. And this report is very aptly named, A Nation at Risk. And many of the problems we have in unemployment in the country is a direct result of persons who are not able to move with the change in the nature of jobs in the United States, training programs that don't keep pace with what is required to help these people become more employed, and relatively few adjustments in the schools.
You've suggested that some of the same problems exist today. There's quite a bit of concern expressed across the country with higher education in terms of its cost effectiveness, the quality, is it giving our students what they need, what the country needs? Any observations on the higher education front in terms of what you've seen change over the year or the problems that we currently face? Are they still there? How might we address some of those?
Well, at the high school level, of course, the dropout rate is nearly somewhat more than it was then. The performance of our students relative to international comparisons has not moved too much. I would say that the students who take a more rigorous course in high school from teachers who are reasonably demanding, are doing really well. And they come into the universities well prepared for what we expect of them. And I think that if you take the universities as a whole, you have to differentiate between the community colleges, the state colleges and state universities, and then the major research institutions of the country, and everything in between, and the public and the private as well. So those are differences that are material, but it's hard to comment, therefore, generally on the whole thing. In terms of the expectations of the major research universities, the standards for admission have been going up, not down. But the cost of attending these institutions has been skyrocketing because the state legislatures, because of our current fiscal problems, and those that preceded this year, have been systematically reducing the level of support that they're enjoying from the state to our major universities, including the state universities, the state colleges, and the community colleges. A general withdrawal of state support for a variety of reasons. The response has been to increase tuition. And the federal government has dramatically increased student financial aid programs. So in a way, the universities are kind of laundering the federal money by way of tuition increases. And then the state legislature said, well, you were able to increase tuition to replace what we haven't been able to supply. And so we'll just see if we can't drop it a little more, and you can increase tuition a little more.
Yeah.
And so now students are leaving these institutions with huge debt, and many in a position never to repay it. And the tuition levels are now prohibitive for the middle class and upper middle class, not to speak of more disadvantaged students, if the state support should just be withdrawn permanently and the federal student financial aid program be reduced. There's no way they can meet that. So I think the higher education system is working itself into a huge problem. That's my view. By not insisting upon the state legislatures of the country making sure that these institutions play their role in the public sector with respect to the public needs of the population and how the average student can find his or her way into these institutions, move through them, and become very productive and useful and participating parts of our society.
Thank you.
You know, one of the issues that lots of institutions of higher education wrestle with are some of the tensions that can sometimes be created between the need for, say, workforce training, and that came through as an aim of your report. How do we develop a more competitive workforce? And some of the things I think that legislators are really attuned to. How do we use these institutions to primarily get people job ready? And that's an important role and function of educational institutions. And yet, when you're a university, we aspire to do great things in the liberal arts and sciences, education for the sake of education, to be serious about intellectual projects and questions and issues. And sometimes that may not always be seen as having immediate relevance to the workforce. And so from your, this is a fairly specific question, but you must have wrestled with this issue before in your time. Any thoughts or counsel for us about that issue and how institutions might wrestle with trying to make good on both counts?
Well, that's a huge challenge, of course, and your university confronts it on a daily basis, given the diverse and comprehensive nature of the programs you offer and the open admissions for entering students, as well as the more exacting requirements for them to move on to your upper division programs and graduate work. So you deal with that all the time. I should be asking you this question. But to the extent that I can offer anything, it seems to me that we need to recognize, first of all, that the workforce is not static. It's changing. It changes in part because of the changing nature of work and the changing nature of the economy, both in the United States and elsewhere. So it's not static, it's fluid. So the programs that we offer in our public institutions and private as well to help prepare students for the workforce needs to be reasonably fluid as well. And most of our institutions tend to be not quite as nimble, perhaps, as the business community has to be to compete. So there's always a lag. But apart from that, it's always hard to know which way the fluidity is taking us. Really hard to know in a rapidly changing world, and given the economic position of the United States in terms of a global economy. So this is a huge challenge to know what to do. However, we also need to take account of the fact that not everybody chooses to pursue a classical or a traditional university degree. And we find that to be true even within the classical program, where students are favoring more of the pre-professional and professional courses of study rather than the more traditional academic and scholarly work. And we always need to remember that if we don't have plumbers and carpenters and tradespeople and skilled craftsmen of one kind or another, machinists or whatever it is, our plumbing won't work either, and our philosophy won't work if we don't pay attention to the liberal arts. So, and we have a society that depends on the average citizen having some sense of the world in which he or she is living, both the political world, the social world, the moral consequences of decisions, and the nature of citizenship in our country. And that was one of the things we found fault with in our report, A Nation at Risk, 30 years ago, that we'd lost some of the coherence of that and unifying aspects of the whole educational system with respect to those matters. So we need to regard as legitimate the interest of young people who want to be craftspeople, who want to be technicians, of people who wish to have their opportunity within that world of work. And we need to be just as concerned with the students who choose an alternative course. It's just as legitimate. Both are legitimate. People are different. They're not the same. And it's hard for our universities to institutionally accommodate this diversity of demands within a curriculum that tends to be more fixed and more traditional. So there's that tension all the time. So the state's going to have a problem funding the long-term needs of public higher education. And in a way, if you can accomplish a unified institution that takes on all the missions of open admissions, full range of the skilled crafts, the liberal arts program, the upper division work, and selected master's levels, and ultimately beyond that perhaps. It will be a model for how the state might develop, in contrast to developing an array of new community colleges, multiplying the universities, adding to the state universities in ways that they simply are never going to be able to do. So I think if you're able to find your way through this challenge, the state should look to this university as a possible model for the ultimate organization of higher education in the state and how it undertakes to distribute its students among these institutions that take on these burdens.
Well, you've described our mission very well. It is unique. Yeah. And we are being asked to provide this wide range of degrees, all the way from one-year certificates to master's degrees. It is a challenge, but we're moving ahead, I think, in a very productive and intentional way. As we continue to pursue this mission, any advice or ideas about how we might stay on course, accomplish it, and reach the goal that we all have?
You have one great advantage, and it's you're not very old. I don't mean us personally, but I mean the institution is of recent origins.
Yes.
I mean very recent origins. You're out at the fairgrounds not many decades ago.
Yeah.
And now you're at this really growing and dynamic campus, and you have branches around. Well, the issue of how you're going to grow and the nature and character of your admissions processes and the expectations for students at differing levels of instruction and the way in which the faculty undertakes to express its interests within the context of this overall mission when theirs tends to be more specialized will require the closest kind of cooperation and working together between the administration and the faculty, as I know you do here. But if there's any place where the kind of collegial relationship that any administrator and faculty members would really hope for, here it's not just a luxury, it's an imperative, it seems to me, because this is not a place that can be dictated to either by the faculty or by the administration, even by the students, because there's such diverse interests, all legitimate, and they have a right to express those views and their own sense of it. But the ability to integrate, to blend, to bring together the unifying forces of the institution in ways that express the satisfactory ways of responding to the aspirations of faculty and students, which is, after all, what it's all about, is the great challenge, it seems to me, here. Not so much even how you allocate the resources or even how you organize the place, as much of as it is an attitude and a commitment that people need to have, irrespective of their particular specialties, as regards the role of this institution as a whole. So that's really tough on the president.
Well,
and on the faculty, and on the students. Everybody, I found in my experience that defining the problem is 75% of the solution. And there's a difference between answers to problems and a solution to problems.
We have attending our faculty convocation today vice presidents, deans, associate deans, department chairs, directors, a variety of academic leadership. From your many years of successful administrative experience, any thoughts or observations about academic leadership that you could leave with us that might be helpful?
Well, most people in these positions don't hold them forever. True of presidents, vice presidents, deans, and so forth. And if they really want them forever, they're the wrong people to have in these positions, because they're putting that as the priority rather than the institution. So my first comment is that we assume the people who are willing to take on these burdens do so for the purpose of being part of the team to benefit and help give direction, quality, and a sense of positive future to the university. That's their objective. Now, the second objective they have is they have a right to represent the constituent interests for which they're responsible. If you're a dean of the business school, you're a dean of the sciences, you're a dean of something else. Just like you're a chancellor of one of our campuses in the University of California, you're expected to be an advocate for that. It's the only way you'll find out what their problems are. They have to advocate for it. Then, of course, everybody does this, and they should do that. But then the job is to find a reconciliation of these diverse and sometimes self-contradictory expressions of ambition and desire to move those respective parts of the institution forward.
As you look around the country, you've worked in Utah, worked in California, your landmark study took a national perspective. You really do have years of a national perch. Do you see any institution out there trying to do what Utah Valley University is doing? How unique are we in your view? And could you say something about both the opportunities and challenges of where you see us stacking up on a national scale?
I don't know of any state that has organized its system of higher education and included within it explicitly an institution with the multiple missions that you are attempting to perform. And in a way, that's not surprising, because all the forces of experience and the tendencies of entrenched ways of doing things around the country have mitigated against that and have instead chosen to fragment, if you wish to put it that way, the whole higher education responsibilities among and between different kinds of institutions that I described in California. You have a community college with its mission, California State University with its mission, University of California with its mission. You have Michigan State, Michigan, University of Michigan, University of Indiana. I mean, that's how they've kind of done it, either directly or not. Wisconsin, they have all these institutions, but they've retained their identity and they put them under an executive officer who tries to administer these institutions with their own history, different parts of the state, different missions, as though it was a unified whole, and that's very difficult to do. Here, you have one institution, young, growing, in demand by students, and you're trying to do all of it. Now, if you can do that, if you can continue to do that, with all the growth that you're going to have, in ways that are as innovative as you've already shown this institution can be, people will notice that. They really will notice it, because most people think it can't really be done. But you know, in Utah, I was asked the difference between Utah and California when I took the job in California. And I said, well, there are two differences. One, in Utah, I can make 5 telephone calls if there's a problem, and I have it solved. In California, I spend 75% of my time trying to figure out what the problem is. And then I never knew who to call. And the second is, well, the second is less important. That's the main thing. So Utah is a manageable size, manageable population. People know one another. You know the legislators, you know their neighbors, not living some other place. The governor's known, he gets around, or she gets around, as the case may be. And so it's a very manageable, actually friendly place. Mm-hmm. Whereas in California, it's hardly manageable and not altogether friendly. So you have lots going with you. The public arena can be both supportive and understanding of what you're trying to do here. You're not just a block in a much larger set of communities. So, and I think to the extent that conversations among and between the presidents about how you're developing and how you're evolving, how are they evolving, what are their problems?
Well, this has been just, I think, everything we hoped it would be. So enjoyable and informative. We're grateful you take the time to do it, and admire your leadership and genuinely appreciate your interest in us and your willingness to take some time to help us as we do, I think, many of the things that you've suggested we must do. One is to be intentional about this, to not just go with the drift of things, but to really sort through it and to try to do it in the most well-intentioned way that we can, because I think it really will take that collective effort. We do sense that it is a truly unique mission, both in the state and potentially across the nation. And we realize the hurdles involved, and you've highlighted that those fears and worries are justifiable, but we feel great energy in moving forward and trying to do this very, I think, unique and important thing for the students of the state and potentially for students across the country in terms of providing that model. So,
well, it was my pleasure. I have every reason to believe you'll be successful. And I surely hope you are, continue to be. And thank you very much for the invitation to visit with you. I'll now enjoy going around the campus and getting caught up.
Great.
Thank
you
very,
very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, it was a wonderful and informative, interesting experience to sit down with Dr. Gardner and get his perspective from his years of administrative experience, but also his understanding of education and higher education across the country. We've invited him back. I hope that we can get him here in person at some point to sit down and maybe have a conversation with him and to ask some questions and to hear a little bit more about his vision and ideas and strategies that we might consider as we move forward. In reviewing that interview several times, there are a number of things that impressed me and that I want to think more about and take forward as we talk about how we can accomplish this mission of a unique education. First of all, I was, I guess, struck, but maybe shouldn't be surprised, that we really are still a nation at risk. A lot has not changed. Some things have, but there's certainly a lot of work to be done at all levels of education, from the elementary to the secondary and post-secondary, if we're really going to move this country forward, and if we're really going to have the type of informed citizenry that we need and that we want to have. I was interested in his comment about the sort of forces in the country that tend to fragment higher education. And so the more traditional model is the community college and the state college and then the research institution. And states that have tried to do that, it certainly has its pros, I suppose, but it's a challenge also to then have any kind of coordination and collaboration and unity among those diverse institutions. And so we're going a different path, and we're going a path that pulls those together in a unified institution where we can collectively develop programs and degrees and opportunities for students to come here and get an education at any of those levels. An interesting challenge for us, I think an exciting one for us. I was also struck by his caution and admonition that this task, if we're going to be successful at it, is going to require the closest kind of communication and cooperation among faculty, administrators, and students. It can't be done if we don't work together and listen and dialogue and find strategies that meet all of our aspirations and interests. I was caught by his comment that in some places this might be a luxury, but at UVU it's an imperative. And so I made due note of that important point. Interesting is comments about those who go into academic administration. Hopefully we're not in it for ourselves, and hopefully we're not in it because we like the big offices and the big salaries or all the trappings that go along with it. Hopefully we go into administration because we are committed to this institution being successful, because we're committed to making this an enjoyable place for the faculty and for the students, and in working together to achieve really something rather unique and interesting. I want you to know that that's why I'm here. There are other things I can do and I would enjoy doing, but I'm also excited to work with President Holland, and I'm also excited to be part of this effort. I mean, let's give it a try, for crying out loud. You know, what else? What else is there to do? But to try to build this institution into something that really can meet the needs of our community, the needs of the state, the needs of our students in really kind of an interesting way. And so I found the interview informative and helpful and energizing, a lot of things for me to think about. And again, hopefully, we will be able to get Dr. Gardner back to be able to sit down with us face to face and kind of dialogue some more and hear a little bit more about his experiences. Well, it's a great pleasure to introduce and welcome our president, Matthew Holland. We are very lucky to have a president of his insight and stature and thoughtfulness. I want you to know how much I enjoy working with him. And he has the right vision for the institution, as I think we have seen in our video. He's committed to our students. He's committed to you as a faculty. And he wants this to be the best university, at least in the state of Utah, but probably in the West. And we can do that under his leadership. And so it's a great pleasure to turn the time over to President Matthew Holland.
Good morning. It's great to be with you. This marks an exciting point in the rhythm of the academic year. We've been doing this 40 years now, getting up for the first day of school. And it still is thrilling and exciting, especially to share that with you today. I hope your summer was productive and enjoyable. Mine certainly was, due primarily to the fact that I stayed miles and miles away from any motorhomes and motorcycle rallies. Unfortunately, I don't have anything to compare to what happened last year. Of course, I'm incapable of spending the summer entirely escaped from sticky situations. It's a little hard to see this probably. That's actually a wall filled with bubble gum in Seattle, Washington, a little known place where I was delivering a presentation to a national conference of university presidents about UVU's engagement strategy. The summer was not all work, however. In fact, I did enjoy what was undoubtedly the most successful outdoorsman experience of my life this summer. That's not doctored, that's real. So no applause on that. I'm sort of waiting for, you know. Of course, shortly after this, I did learn that I probably could have used a few more personal days off towards the end of one particularly exhausting series of travels seeking additional university resources. I climbed on board a plane on the East Coast, and just before the doors closed and I was asked to turn off my phone, I dashed out the following message to text my wife. Alumni prez on the flight can drive me home. Hours between me and home with you seem like an eternity. Helpless romantic that I am. I then promptly fired the message off to Linda Macon. Let's just say it gave her a bit of a jolt for the day. She was sweet and clever enough to simply write back, "I'm glad to know that you're happily married." Well, listen, it's been another year of remarkable growth at UVU, and progress too, growth and progress. In addition to the thousands of new students that we have over 200 new faculty and staff, including a handful of administrative hires with rich and diverse backgrounds. Here's a picture. Newell Daly's been recognized today. Ron Price, Associate Vice President for Human Resources. Jane Urbaska and Joel Kincart joining the Mark Archibald's team in development, and Steve Roy, new AVP in economic development under Val Peterson. We welcome them aboard, and their rich and diverse backgrounds bring a wonderful new set of perspectives, creativity, and energy to this campus. So while I welcome all of you back heartily to this campus for a new academic year, I want to extend a special note of welcome to those of you who are new and joining us for the first time at this faculty convocation. Before leaping into the heart of my remarks, I would wish to take a moment to give you an accounting of my efforts during the last year on behalf of you and this institution. Here are the priorities that I presented the last time we were together a year ago. As most of you know, we spent much of last year wrestling with the first and last items, the refining and implementing the strategic plan for growth, and wrestling with our unique educational mission. I have a lot to say, probably too much to say about that today. I'll save that for just right now. With legislative approval and student fees in hand, we have been actively moving ahead with the Student Life and Wellness Building, as well as an adjacent and much-needed parking structure paid for by Parking Revenue Bond. These projects are in design phase, which should end in December, with construction starting in the spring. Here I will note that the wellness component of this building, which the faculty will have access to, is being defined broadly and inclusively, with equipment, rooms, and services for body, mind, and spirit, including a reflection center for private worship or non-religious meditation, thus fulfilling one of the inclusive initiatives announced last year. The other initiative to attract and support Native American students and projects moves apace with 13 different activities underway. Our University Council for Economic Development has indeed been organized and is operating effectively. In November, we plan to cut the ribbon on a new business resource center that will be a hub of business education mentoring and valley-wide economic development. All 7 of our business engagement strategy recommendations are well advanced in the implementation stage. This includes the China Studies Initiative that is already making a fairly massive academic impact, massive impact on campus, and powerfully embodying so many of our core themes and administrative imperatives. As part of the initiative, we are delighted to welcome 4 new faculty housed in 3 different departments, Martin Vosler and Alex Yuan in languages, Dr. Sam Leong in humanities, and Dr. Francis Son in management. In addition, we welcome Dr. Hui from the Nankai University, who is here as a Fulbright scholar in residence, pursuing her teaching and scholarship in marketing. Engaged. The China Initiative began largely in response to input from business and community leaders who expressed a need. Inclusive. It provides an expertise in and an exposure to an increasingly important part of the world so distant and foreign to many of our students. Serious. The project brings to the campus a highly accomplished and well-trained faculty hailing from illustrious graduate programs, including Harvard and Columbia. Efficient. Rather than building up a faculty along some traditional languages model that fills a myriad of distinct linguistic, historical, and literary categories of a single department, we have leveraged these hires in a way that brings added strength and expertise to a variety of different disciplines across the university. In doing so, it lays a more economical, therefore more achievable framework for further internationalization of the campus, which would be a good thing given the increasingly global society in which we live and the highly unusual level of international experience of the students in this area. Now let me be clear here. You will see around campus this year many activities attended to our global spotlight on Brazil. Does this mean we are starting a Brazil initiative like under the China Initiative? No, the spotlight on Brazil is part of our efforts, our international office, to bring an institutional focus of events and lectures of one foreign country for at least a year's length. Even if we were soon to decide to begin adding a Portuguese component to our campus curriculum, which has a certain logic, given Brazil's top 5 status for economic influence these days, and the exceptionally large cohort of undergraduate students in the area with advanced Portuguese capabilities, this would not rise to an effort equal to that which we have put into and will continue to put into the China Initiative, a more robust set of university-wide commitments that provide an unusually broad and visible emphasis in this particular area. Thanks to the energetic direction of Elaine Engelhardt, our campus-wide China Initiative Advisory Committee made rapid and extraordinary progress in developing related events, campus curriculum, and key partnerships. Her efforts, along with those of her colleagues, provided valuable impetus needed to accelerate the project and perpetuate it for long-term implementation. Sufficiently incubated, the initiative has now been transferred to the Office of Academic Affairs under the leadership of a committee of deans who will oversee the development of 3 new minor programs in Chinese language, culture, and commerce, as well as our Doing Business with China conference, teacher training programs for public education, and a variety of other events with student activities. With all this and more underway, I would like to take this opportunity to extend my heartfelt thanks to Elaine for her dedicated service. This is all a good time as any to inform you about her current role as my Special Assistant for Federal Relations, which has changed. Given the current ban on federal earmarks, which historically have been a significant source of educational funding, our attentions turn to funding that will most likely now move to federal agencies delivered by grant. Elaine will work closely with our Washington-based advisor, Bill Nixon, to survey and contact agencies with possible funding sources of relevance to faculty, staff, and university projects. Along these same lines, she will survey and contact private foundations that may also have possible funding sources of relevance to faculty, staff, and university projects. This does not change her reporting line, nor that of those who are responsible for writing, prioritizing, and finally approving grant applications and foundation appeals. Over the next few weeks, we will work out a structure for internally coordinating her efforts and extend our awareness of and relationship with sponsored program opportunities around the nation, which will become more and more important. Well, that was a bit of a digression, but I hope a helpful one. In terms of the balance of the last year's priorities, I will note that we have seen this morning Vice President Archambault has assembled a first-rate team of talent to help move the development operation forward. Filling these positions was not the only thing left in terms of reorganizing and fine-tuning our development activity across campus, but it was perhaps the chiefest thing. We have made substantial progress on academic policy and governance issues, even if some things remain unfinished. The work on our unique educational mission has well addressed the front-loading of requirements on remediation, even if it temporarily delayed our progress on an academic master plan and the policy on rank. RTP guidelines are all submitted and currently under review in the Office of Academic Affairs. Speaking of that office, I must say that above all things, I was delighted that early last year, Ian Wilson accepted my invitation to take the interim status off his title and serve as Vice President of Academic Affairs. He stepped into this role, not one he sought, in the spirit of the counsel we were just given this morning, with remarkable deftness and good spirit. He has made some hard decisions and pushed himself to tackle things weaker executives would have ignored to the institution's detriment. He continues to move an agenda forward that is ambitious, but within the bounds of good judgment. He fosters an immense sense of fairness and collegiality while standing firm on those issues he feels strongly are in the best interest of the core academic mission of the institution. It is both a privilege and a delight to work side by side with him. Can you actually start applause for something you yourself said? That was for Ian. I hope everyone knew that. Not myself. Before examining our progress and future as it concerns our initiative on our unique educational mission and what it means for a number of my priorities moving forward, I feel the need to introduce one new priority for the year that runs the risk of sounding, at least here this morning, as too alarmist or perhaps too nitty-gritty for a faculty convocation. Yet, I'm convinced that what I'm about to say is eminently worthy of faculty attention because it is of grave concern and because faculty must be the first line of defense in such a matter. As a faculty, staff, and administrators, one of our chief concerns must be the physical safety of our students and our colleagues. The recent lockdown at West Virginia University only weeks ago serves as yet another reminder that emergency incident planning and management should be a visible and integral part of any institution of higher education. Later in the program today, you will hear from a few individuals, Bob Rasmussen, Bill Erb, Ashley Robinson, about some of the resources and trainings available for faculty and staff in preparation for any emergency incidents. A booth is also in the back with various handouts and quick facts for you to have at your desks. Please pick up and receive these materials. I especially urge you to look at those materials concerning what to do if you notice a troubled or dangerous student, since such students have been, at least so far, the cause of more harm on university campuses than any fire, storm, or earthquake. Again, please avail yourself of these materials and training. This year, I am requiring the Cabinet and the Executive Leadership Council on campus to receive formal FEMA training in emergency management. As we go through this, there will undoubtedly be a more organized effort to pass along more university-wide training. In the meantime, please acquire what materials and training you can. Let me provide you today, this moment, with lesson number 1 related to such training. National trainer Frank Zebedis, chief of the police at Winthrop University, explains it this way. Who's in charge initially at the onset of an incident? It should be the first responder, which could be a professor. It could be a faculty member, a staff member, a coach, a citizen. The first emergency responder who shows up on the scene is in charge. But as the event grows and more qualified people arrive to the scene, whoever's in charge then passes off authority to the more qualified person until eventually you have an incident commander who is in a position to manage the scene. But it may take a while for such qualified responders to arrive. It doesn't happen in a matter of seconds or minutes, so that initial person is in charge until a more qualified help arrives. If there is an emergency on this campus, most likely one of you, a member of the faculty, will need to serve, at least for some period of time, as the incident commander, taking care of urgent issues and crises until more qualified help arrives. Will you know what to do in that moment? I believe that we must instill on this campus a culture of emergency preparedness. I earnestly hope that we will never have to use our emergency plans and training, but given the responsibility we have, especially for our students, we must be ready. 2 years ago, I stood in this spot for the first time and offered some early impressions about the nature and future of Utah Valley University. I spoke about this institution as serious, engaged, inclusive, and large. First 3 terms seemed to strike a powerful chord, but you did not care much for the term large. As we worked through a significant amount of constructive feedback on this issue, we eliminated large and added a fourth aspirational concept, student success. This, we said, was at the heart of our mission. That was a most helpful correction to my first impressions. The other improvement is that we took the thinking about the issue of UVU large and set to become larger every year and channeled that into a separate set of administrative imperatives about effective management and resource development that were complementary to our core themes in that spirit. In that spirit, and just a few months later, after I addressed you that day, we formed a committee to project our growth and create a strategic plan for dealing with such. This committee came forward with the most sophisticated and robust growth projection this institution has ever had. It also provided a broad menu of options for dealing with such. While all of this was unfolding, it was increasingly clear in campus conversations and exchanges that our serious and inclusive aspirations, while wonderfully complementary in many ways, also presented some competing challenges. In an effort to address this head-on, at least the issues associated with an ongoing quest to be an institution of higher education of exceptionally high quality while remaining a broad portal of educational access, we created in the fall of last year a university-wide council on our unique educational mission. This council was comprised of 3 subcommittees with faculty, staff, and administrative representation on each. These committees were designed to examine 3 subject areas identified as critical components for analysis if we were to maintain the uniqueness of our mission, namely academic programming, faculty qualifications, and student transitions. After several months of research, regular meetings, and ongoing dialogue, these committees came forth with a number of concrete recommendations. One of the first observations that came from the process was the affirmation that what we were doing was truly unique. Research revealed that we are the 4th largest open admissions public university in the nation. And of the top 5 in that category, we are the only one to offer roughly the same number of baccalaureate degrees as we do associate's degrees and certificates. In other words, we are a large institution with a university array of demanding 4-year programs, yet with open access and strong participation in certificate and 2-year programs, we continue to play a vital community college role in our service region. As you heard David Gardner suggest in his interview, and as he said to me again as he was leaving, there is no one like you in the country. It is a remarkable accomplishment. With respect to our unique educational mission, the future is indeed here. This is not just some distant aim. It is something that we are doing right now, doing well, and on a scale like no other institution in the country. The question then is, should we keep doing it? And if so, what steps do we need to take to keep doing it with the growing student body and ever-increasing commitment to academic excellence that we must have? To the first question, what our process of engagement on this issue has consistently revealed to me is that we indeed have a critical mass of faculty, staff, students, and civic leaders who feel passionately committed to both sides of the equation for UVU. We must ceaselessly live up to and strive for the high expectations, academic rigor, intellectual curiosity, substantive broad-mindedness, and path-breaking creativity worthy of a first-rate university. For me, this is the non-negotiable foundation of our aims and aspirations. Our best students, whom we are called upon to serve, deserve nothing less, and we as faculty, as a matter of personal character and academic integrity, should provide nothing less. Yet, even as a majority of us hold this, there remains a very strong sentiment that we must not lose our commitment to being the regional home of varied opportunities and second chances, characteristic of a community college. We grew out of the trades and technical education and 2-year degrees that still play an absolutely vital role in preparing students for a rewarding and productive life and filling regional workforce needs. Additionally, our open enrollment remains an absolute lifeline to battered women, underserved populations, first-generation college students, and those experiencing midlife career crisis. Should UVU abandon that side of its mission? Where would such students go in this environment where the state can't even seem to adequately fund the schools it has, let alone look to build and fund new ones? The power of our combined mission is that by remaining committed to a wide array of offerings, UVU will continue to be a regional and national leader in providing seamless transitions between associate's, bachelor's, and master's degree programs. Many students otherwise likely to stop at the certificate and 2-year level will pursue more advanced degrees. You must see these kinds of students all the time. I know because I do. I run into them in the hallways. I run into them in the lunchroom. I run into them in the grocery store out in the community because they stop me and they tell me how much a professor or the school in general has meant to them and what it's done to change their life, taking them to heights they never thought they could achieve. By remaining inclusive on the front end for this institution, we not only secure a robust and essential conduit to community college programming, we draw more students into the full university experience. And if political leaders as different as Barack Obama and Gary Herbert are to be believed, doing both of these things fulfills a vital public interest, given that this country is facing a developing shortage of citizens sufficiently educated beyond secondary schooling for the demands of 21st century employment and civic participation. Of course, in the long run, should UVU steadily abandon its 2-year certificate offerings, the state would undoubtedly find a way to direct increasingly scarce resources elsewhere to fill that void. As it stands now, the majority of courses taught at UVU are lower division courses. If the critical community college function we currently serve is diminished, it will present significant challenges for the entire institution. The costly creation of separate infrastructure, faculty, systems of support and administration within our service region to meet those needs would deprive us of substantial resources that we have consistently shown we can use to efficiently provide excellent university and community college programming. Our unique educational mission is unique and provides a national model at a time of great challenge for higher education, where previously admired models that combined expensive Tier 1 research universities with systems of cheap community colleges are crumbling before our eyes. It is also consistent with a sense of mission many of us feel about serving those who perhaps need education most but have the least chance of getting it. And it is in our financial best interest. With this sense, then, that we are on the right path, the question then follows, how do we do it? When the cabinet officers and I saw the first draft of the report by the council, the first thing that struck us was how interconnected the recommendations were with the findings of the committee that worked on the strategic plan for managing growth. We therefore took both documents, wrestled with them at some length, and came forward with a working draft white paper outlining a number of combined recommendations and changes we hope UVU would proactively address student growth and our dual missions of serious and inclusive. We then engaged in a number of internal and external conversations, receiving a significant amount of feedback. Some initiatives were broadly well received, while others stimulated much greater debate. Overall, I would say that the feedback was thoughtful, strong, and taken very serious. Later today, we will release on the web another draft of the white paper that you will see incorporates substantial amounts of feedback. What I'd like to do now is walk through some items on the white paper and give you an update on where we are in the conversation, or in some cases, implementation. Please note that I will only be covering highlights. I would invite you to dive into the full report to gather the finer details and rationale for decisions and current directions. In an effort to strengthen our admissions and enrollment processes, we've decided to implement a new admissions deadline of August 1 for fall semesters and December 1 for spring semesters. Last year, we implemented a deadline of August 15th and held to it when no one in the system said that we would. By moving to August 1, we are providing our faculty and staff with more time to plan and prepare with greater accuracy for enrollment schedulings and new sections. We will also be requiring the receipt of official transcripts prior to admission. Finally, students will be required to pay for all registered courses that are not dropped in a timely and appropriate manner regardless of attendance. This new process is designed to curb the tendency for students to sign up for and hold a seat and never pay without penalty. Too many of our students are on wait lists and need to know if they can get into a class. These changes will take place coming in the fall of 2012. Other suggestions for changes in the enrollment process were also met with wide approval and perhaps stand at the heart of our unique educational mission. These dealt with our commitment to remain open admissions but move towards a more structured enrollment. The traditional one-size-fits-all approach no longer meets the needs of the university. With this in mind, we will be establishing university enrollment standards. To be eligible to enroll in any lower division courses, new students admitted before or at 23 years of age must have an ACT composite of 19 or higher and a high school GPA of 2.5 or higher. New students admitted at or after 24 years of age will need to present AccuPlacer scores with demonstrated minimums. Transfer students must present college transcripts with the equivalent of at least UVU Math 1010 and English 1010 and a transfer GPA of 2.0 or higher. If students do not meet the enrollment standards above, they will be admitted, but they will be guided through a number of steps to help them succeed, including lockstep progress on needed remediation. The final component, if these steps are completed, a student has now met university enrollment standards and will be eligible to take any lower division course. The final component is to help all students advance towards upper division and limited enrollment programs and ultimately graduation, but in a way that ensures students are sufficiently prepared for such pursuits. In an effort to ensure that students take upper division courses and are prepared for greater educational rigor and are ready to engage with like prepared students, we will be requiring students to complete and/or transfer in at least 24 credits of 1,000 level or above courses with a cumulative GPA of 2.0 or higher before they can enroll in an upper division course. Note that the same 2.0 GPA is what we currently require for graduation. As you can imagine, an admissions and enrollment overhaul of this magnitude requires tremendous work. About 1 month ago, a committee was created to discuss the steps and potential timeline of implementation. Although it will be tedious and time-consuming, the committee believes that we can have the new standards in place by fall of 2012. In fact, this committee is actively analyzing the pertinent information for the recruitment materials that will be disseminated within a month. Next topic. As UVU continues to respond to regional and student demand, the need for relevant, high-quality graduate degrees will only increase. To meet this demand, we will look to create an Office of Graduate Studies in the spring of 2012. The personnel associated with this office will be charged to establish and coordinate the development of new graduate degrees, implement ongoing procedural changes, and ensure consistency across graduate programs. This was not in the first draft of the white paper, but came out as a very fine suggestion in one of our campus conversations. Here it's worth stressing that the initiatives coming out of the white paper are not the only things that will emerge and have bearing on these issues over the years. For instance, entirely aside from the white paper, we decided through the PBA cycle that the university needed an Office of Academic Research Support. I'm grateful to Professor Mo El Saidi for stepping up to take a leadership role that will establish this office to provide statistical and methodological help for faculty working on advanced scholarship, another mark of an organizational alignment that advances the academically serious side of our mission. In addition to creating the Offices of Graduate Studies and Academic Research Support, we will be creating an Assistant Vice President of Community College Programs. This position will be posted for hire in the spring of 2012. The strong trend for universities that have experienced the kind of growth and evolution we have is to systematically shed certificate training and two-year degrees. Again, given what we have concluded about maintaining such programs, this would undermine our unique mission. This is not an attempt to create some kind of quasi-community college president within our university, nor is it tantamount to establishing a more compartmentalized community college operation that can then be easily hived off. The name, Assistant Vice President of Academic Affairs for Community College Programs, was changed to reflect the fact that it is about the monitoring and securing of appropriate certificate and two-year programs for which there is regional demand. This position will report to the Associate Vice President of Academic Programs and will supervise extended studies, career and technical education, concurrent enrollment, and a student support office as needed. We as a cabinet have heard and registered and at some level share the concern raised by some about the use of the term community college. We must not lose traction on branding this institution as a bona fide university in the eyes of the community. We do not believe, though, that the naming of an internal, tertiary level administrative office will do that. We do believe it will provide a clear and appropriate internal signal that such programming is still something we do and value at this institution. A few other administrative decisions have been made to solidify University College's mission of student success. This past summer, the Academic Counseling Center that advises all the university studies majors changed reporting lines from Student Affairs to University College. The Office of Academic Standards is now reporting to University College due to the focus on helping students surmount their academic difficulties. And the Student Success and Retention Office will shift its academic reporting affairs from the AVPAA's office to University College in the coming months. These things, along with asking the dean of the college to be a champion in academic affairs for counseling issues that cut across colleges and divisions, will help us to admit and successfully integrate students with a wide range of capabilities and preparation, and provide them with well-coordinated and consistent advising across campus while allowing maximal flexibility for unique departmental and college advisement needs. Finally, for this section, we've begun the process to conduct a survey to see how well the community understands the full range of our mission. A professional survey firm has been selected and will be conducting the survey within weeks. As soon as we have the results, we will make them available to the campus broadly. This survey will help inform our marketing efforts as we carefully educate the UVU community about the value of all degree offerings and the availability of such on our campus. I'd like now to turn my attention to a number of discussion items that more directly affect your role as a faculty member here at UVU. The first was an attempt to revise and integrate academic program initiation and review processes. Initially, we suggested the establishment of two committees: an academic program data analysis committee charged to identify, organize, and analyze data that departments, schools, and colleges could use in developing new degrees, and an academic program review committee charged with ensuring the effectiveness and currency of established degrees. Based on the strong concerns raised in the Faculty Senate and the open faculty discussion groups, as well as the absence of many of your vital voices during the summer, we will move away from the creation of a committee for implementation in these areas and charge academic affairs to develop a new proposal on these matters that can be further discussed in key faculty venues, including the Faculty Senate and University Planning Advisory Council. I thought that some of the concerns raised about the initial language on criteria for evaluating programs were especially valid and struck home with my own conviction and experience that such criteria must enshrine the power and benefit of a strong liberal arts education, whatever other practical considerations may adhere. Please talk with your senators, department chairs, or deans if you would like to weigh in on the development of these program initiation and review processes. With respect to the faculty credentialing and rank of professor, in most cases the doctorate degree will be the terminal degree required for rank of professor. However, in some circumstances, a faculty member may attain the rank of full professor without a doctorate. Some disciplines have non-doctorate terminal degrees. Each department, with approval from their dean and VPAA, will identify the terminal degree acceptable to the discipline. A department can provide a path for a faculty member without the required terminal degree to earn tenure and achieve the rank of associate professor, but not the rank of full professor. Exceptions may be approved in rare circumstances. In addition to academic credentials, RTP committees will develop other criteria suitable to the discipline in the areas of teaching and scholarly or creative work to advance to full professor. In some cases, a salary increase similar to that associated with the advancement of the rank of full professor may be earned for a faculty who does not have the terminal degree but has demonstrated sustained excellence in all the key areas of faculty responsibility. The other hotly debated topic was that of faculty role statements. The role statements were meant to broadly outline faculty performance expectation for each area of a faculty member's professional responsibility: teaching, scholarly, creative work, and service. Many of you will remember the examples of the options in the three different statements, including teaching, teaching practice, and teaching scholarship. These options contain various percentages that indicated areas of focus. Based on your feedback, we will again ask the Academic Affairs Council to give this issue additional thought and make a new recommendation. Some deans have expressed strong interest in the utility and flexibility of the role statements. I think there needs to be more dialogue about how role statements might be defined and implemented should some colleges wish to do so. We will be moving forward in providing more multi-year contracts for salaried, non-tenure track faculty. While we do not want to see the ranks of such grow overly large, such an option will give greater stability to lecturers and departments and consistency for our students under current circumstances. Deans and department chairs will work with the VPAA to discuss their requests in the PBA process. Next, we are already heralded as the lean, green educating machine. Or in other words, we have all heard that we are the most efficient institution of higher education in the state. And considering what some other states are going through, I would dare say that we are the most effective as well. But we can and must get even more efficient. The impact of the economic recession, to the extent we are still in one or returning to one, continues to impact higher education. While UVU experienced a 2.9% reduction in state tax funds last year, a combination of tuition rate increase and reduction of contingency funds softened the impact. Other institutions and systems across the nation continue to struggle with implementing ongoing reductions or responding to double-digit tax fund reductions. Some examples. In June, our neighbor to the north, USU, announced details for a $4 million budget cut. Higher education leaders in Pennsylvania were grateful to receive a 19% reduction. The governor had recommended a 50% reduction. New Hampshire had a 48% reduction. Arizona, 24%. Washington and California, 23%. Colorado, 20%. As one of our advisors in the ASCU National Consortium said, there has been much talk about the new normal in higher education state funding, and for good reason. It's not just about a sluggish economy stalling state revenue growth that's in play. It's the fact that lawmakers are having less and less discretion over budgetary matters. We are going to have to be more efficient to survive. One of the ways we are improving in our efficiency to deal with this new reality is with the expansion of distance education. Growth in online course enrollment remains strong, currently hovering near 20%, marking the 5th straight year of double-digit growth for online course enrollments. Piloting this fall, a fully online section of Introduction to Music represents the initial result of strategic effort undertaken by the schools and colleges to utilize distance education sections to mitigate the bottleneck effect of high-demand general education courses. UVU's live interactive concurrent enrollment program remains one of the most popular in the state. Vice President Wilson recently introduced a new compensation model for courses developed for and delivered through distance education technologies, the result of a nearly year-long dialogue between the Office of Academic Affairs, the Department of Distance Education, the Faculty Senate, the Dean's Council. The new plan will be implemented for this fall 2011. This new plan not only provides opportunities for growth in the number of courses, sections, and students served through distance delivery, but also provides a faculty incentive structure that is simple, equitable, and transparent. Distance education has continued to devote significant resources into the expansion of the breadth and depth of its training, consultation, and support for technology-enhanced instruction. I could say much more about this in great detail, but time does not allow. What I will say is that they have been working very hard on a number of exciting initiatives. I'll just note one. The Innovation Center piloted a hybrid boot camp, an intensive 3-day hands-on instructional design and technology integration workshop that helps faculty develop courses that combine the magic and personal touch of the live in-class experience with the efficiency, flexibility, and quality enhancements that distant learning technologies can provide and our students increasingly are asking for. I will just note here, we are not going to robot classes, contrary to the video earlier in the morning. We will be serious about this as well as efficient. The thing I love about our leaders in distance education is that this is not just about online training, simple computer-based training. It's about serious academic rigor and using technology to both provide more efficiency but to make for a more qualitative experience. In addition to distance education, UVU will continue to expand summer, evening, and weekend offerings. This fall, we will be hiring a summer school director who will report to the AVP of academic programs. This position was made possible due to the receipt of our mission-based funding from the state of Utah this summer. This person will be charged with developing a comprehensive plan for growth, building a budget, working with department chairs to identify new course offerings, and promoting and marketing summer school. Well, there are more things that we could do. but we have to do the things that we can do. These efforts will enhance and optimize our ability to use our physical space to its fullest extent. But even as I outline the effort to maximize these resources, I recognize that there are limits to our ability to hold to the efficiency-only model. You'll recall from my State of the University address this past February, I outlined what additional resources UVU would need by 2020 if we were to meet the full growth, the student growth, and fulfill our mission. I will not take time to review those numbers here. I will close by noting that as they move into the new academic year, we will be focusing great administrative energies on securing additional resources. In particular, we will work to complete the design and building of the Student Life and Wellness Building, which will enhance the current physical space challenge that we're facing on campus. We will be making an aggressive effort with the state legislature to secure past growth and equity funding. We've laid the groundwork for this in the last legislative session, where there was a legislative call for an equity study, which I think will show that UVU is deserving of more base funding. We will work day and night to acquire a new building. We will approach this from 3 different angles. We will make a legislative request for a classroom and office building as our #1 appropriations request. We will consider and explore creative ways to develop property at Thanksgiving Point that may or may not ask us to call upon the resources of the state. We will do the same in consideration of developed properties in and around the main campus, even if not directly on the spine, with the idea that at least one of those that we will strive diligently to secure for this coming year. We will have a 4-pronged development focus. We are in the midst of a major scholarship campaign that will complete in October. I am looking forward to what I think will be a fairly significant amount of scholarship money that we have raised this year, even in a very difficult year, in support of our students. We will work to develop fundraising efforts to secure the funds necessary to go to the state to supplement the development of a classroom building or the other capital facilities projects I mentioned. We also want to have a mini campaign to develop resources to build a new modular We Care Center. One of the big challenges we have for our inclusive initiative of helping more young women come to campus and supporting our female faculty is we have insufficient daycare facilities on this campus. I'm optimistic that we can raise the funds to build a new and expanded We Care Center. We will also work with the deans to support a series of projects designed to enhance academic excellence. Here I call upon you to think through your needs, your aspirations as scholars, as professors, as teachers, to communicate those to your dean, who we are working with through Mark Archambault's office with a new development operation, to go out and find the resources we can to elevate key programs and activities that will take your academic projects to the next level. I think it's an extremely important component of what we're about to do. Well, that was a mouthful. I know. This is not a kind of a standard approach for me in this setting to get into such detail. I thought it was important to bring you forward, bring you up to speed on where we stand with a number of these issues that do have broad implication for the campus. As I said, even at this, I've only hit the highlights. I invite you to go look at the white paper, to continue to give us your feedback. We'll be communicating with you about ways and means to do that. There's a danger here in all this, though, that we get caught up in the weeds a little too much and miss really why we're all here today. And that's the note I have to end on as I'm with you. Not suggesting, undermining the importance of what was just said. I think it's vital. It's absolutely critical that we do, as David Gardner says, that we meet in a collegial fashion as faculty, administrators, staff, and students and figure out how to chart this difficult, but I think exciting, exhilarating, unique, and immensely rewarding activity of pursuing the educational mission that we have. But at the end of the day, the ultimate unit of analysis for me in all of this is not the budget, it's not the buildings, and no disrespect intended, not even you, the faculty. It is our students. They are our raison d'etre. They are the reason we are here, and we must never forget that. I want to read a letter I got from a student. I always appreciate getting these letters. I know that however many letters are written, there are many more that could have been written that weren't, that would say many of the same things about, I believe, hope, all of the departments across this campus. This is one that is particularly complimentary of our friends primarily in exercise science, but also faculty and staff across the entire institution. President Holland, I've just graduated in May. I want to express my appreciation for the faculty at UVU. I've received my degree in exercise science, and I will begin my master's program as a physician assistant this June at A.T. Still University in Mesa, Arizona. It's taken a great deal of work on my part to get to this point in my life, but I've also received a large amount of support from my major's advisors, professors, as well as many other UVU faculty members. I'd like to give a special thanks to the following faculty and staff by letting you know how they've helped me achieve my goals. Now, he goes on to thank Steve Namany, Scott Houle, Barney Nye, and Sue Stevenson on the staff side of things, and I read those passages in our what's now become sort of the equivalent of our staff convocation last week. Let me read what he says about the faculty in this particular case. Dr. Jason Slack, Exercise Science Department Chair, for giving me the opportunity to present an outline of our major to the College of Health and Science Advisory Board, for always knowing my name, and for writing me a letter of recommendation, extremely helpful to all hardworking students. Dr. Michael Bone, Biomechanics and Kinesiology Professor. He wrote me an excellent last-minute letter of recommendation with only 1 day notice. He was never rude or acted like I was hindering his day when I would come to his office for extra help. His lectures were awe-inspiring and intriguing. Dr. Andrew Creer, Exercise Physiology and Research Methods. Very knowledgeable and passionate about his expertise. His classes were difficult, yet effective in making sure students learned the material. And finally, Deb Thornton, Associate Professor, English. Taught my English 1010 class and demonstrated how to be a passionate writer. I asked her to read over my personal statement for grad school. She had me come to an editing class, and she taught with the help of her students. I prepared a strong personal statement for grad school. I was extremely humbled by this experience because Deb took time out of her class to help me, and her students were insightful as well as willing to help out. President Holland, these faculty members are just a few of the many more I could list. I owe a special thanks to all of these mentors. My college years have truly been some of the best times of my life. Honestly, I can say that over the past 5 years, I've grown into a new and better person. This enlightenment is accredited to UVU. I'm proud to bleed green and grateful to the school for giving me a chance to receive my education. There was a time when I thought about transferring to another school, but I thought that if I did anything grand in my life, I wanted the university that opened their doors to me to receive the credit. UVU is the school where I received my education, where I met my wife and achieved my goal of getting into a physician's assistant school. There is no reason why a UVU student couldn't accomplish their academic and professional goals with all of the help with all the help the faculty and staff of UVU do for their students. President Holland, I appreciate the time you took to read this and for your service as president of the university. Sincerely, Danny Marini. This is why we do what we do. At least it's why I do what I do. Because of young men and young women like this, who come here often scared to death, too often underprepared, filled with all sorts of drama and trauma, but also excitement and optimism and enthusiasm. And I just can't say, you've heard me say it again, I sound like a broken record, but I just can't imagine a more exhilarating, rewarding, and stimulating work. And I can't consider a more honorable position to be in than to work with people like those that are described in this letter and that are all over this ballroom today. You're the finest set of faculty in the land. I believe that. Your care, your commitment to students, you're willing to innovate, you're willing to sacrifice, you're willing to dialogue about the tough issues, make all the difference in the world, in our lives, and especially in the lives of our students. Thank you very much. I give you my heartiest commendations and wish you the best of success in this coming academic year. Thank you.
Thank you, President Holland, for that inspiring and visionary message. We very much appreciate your leadership and look forward to an exciting year with you to move the institution forward.